Here we are at War and Peace, the beginning of 1809. What's happened so far? Well, the French went through kind of the standard, let's attack, we have to attack Austria first, then Prussia, under the new rules, is forced into a war. Russia is at war with France throughout this. England's at war with France throughout this. After we defeated both Prussia and Austria, Tilsit gets triggered. Again, this is new rules stuff from the OSS game. Meant to kind of script things a little better. And we created our Poland. I still have to look up to see if Poland and Westphalia can be recreated. It's not clear to me. In my head says they cannot, that there's a rule that specifically exempts that, but I couldn't find it. Anyway, France took the respite in the continent to turn and attack and conquer Spain. Now, Spain had already taken Portugal under France's control. This is something that just happens in War and Peace. There's not much you can do to stop it. Meanwhile, anyway, they succeed in doing that. Towards the end of that, another coalition forms, Austria, Prussia, Russia, slamming into France, trying to take advantage of the fact that they're tied up in Spain. Well, Spain's conquered now. French troops are making their way back. They're holding off the coalition. The only negative thing from France's point of view is that they really had England on the ropes for a while with the commerce rating rules, again from the new version, well, from the 6th edition. I don't have the 7th, but apparently they're very close. Now that's pretty much done. And the English are able to produce stuff. They're still at war with the US, though, which prevents them from being able to actually do anything on the continent. All they have is their navies to interfere. French troops are coming forward. They should be able to destroy and defeat the Austro-Prussians. Russia's a much harder job. With Spain under control, if Austria and Prussia both surrender, then it becomes a relatively easy job. I think all I have to do is take Memel, Riga, and St. Petersburg, and I'll get a victory. I may have to have Moscow as well, but anyhow. But I may not need all of everything. But with Spain defeated, with Austria and Prussia subjugated, I think Russia becomes a real possibility under these new rules. Anyhow, that's all I've got for now. I'm still not feeling terribly well. Kind of dizzy. I'll be back up to start on this new year. So here we are in January 1809. We got cold, regular winter across the board. Excuse me. And Spanish production is crap. Nowhere with their navies. I kind of screwed up and didn't blockade this, so I cheated myself into that. It would have been able to be done. French attrition, painful enough. It's probably going to cause a couple of strength points, but not much. Attacks by the French up here against, not Bluchertz, like Ruchel. Here, try to take the empire back, and up here. They could have attacked these horses. I don't have great leadership. I don't have good morale, so it felt like with the French. So here's the thing. It's kind of a close to even attack. I'm willing to make those with the coalition. With the French, I'm a lot less willing to make those kind of attritional attacks. My production is probably lower, even with miners and whatnot, because I can only build one miner out of each group. And I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 production here, plus the Landwehr, which kind of cancel out some of the miners. versus 4 production for France. So it's like even attacks are less valuable. I've actually been probably too reticent to attack with both sides. The coalition could have taken more chances and tried to push deeper, take their shot at Paris or whatever. But the chances are very low. The problem is I'm almost guaranteed to lose this war in Europe. You have to remember, when Napoleon did actually lose, first of all, he went in with his 500,000 men into Russia, and those were trimmed down to nothing, or barely anything, which means the Grand Army was pretty much gone, right? You were funneling troops forward and whatnot, but Austria and Prussia had built up their armies again. Russia wasn't in great shape, but whatever. They weren't in terrible shape. And so there was a big numerical advantage. There were French troops in Spain trying to fight still. And, you know, basically everything had gone about as bad as it can go. Facing this isn't too different from the Austerlitz scenario. The only difference is I've got Austria and Prussia together at the same time. But the French have a much weaker force at the front right now, but eventually it's going to come up there. Eventually, I mean, they've got most of their troops on the board or captured, to be honest. So, you know. I realized I fucked up with my supply. My supply has to come out of Strasbourg here. 1, 2, 3, or 1, 2, and then to here, and then into here, because this would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah. So actually, I've got to leave another unit behind there. Just to siege this, I've got to commit 3 units to holding that depot line, because I don't have any major cities nearby. And the French are very successful across the line. Some of it was problematic. I had a force. John had 2 Landwehr, 2 Russian cavalry, and 1 regular Austrian infantry. So its morale is 0, because it picks the worst morale out of everything if you don't have somebody who's clearly in the lead. Anyway, Ney beat that back pretty easily. Both of these sieges fell right away. It puts me on the coalition side. The game is kind of in a dull period. Like, stuff's happening, but it doesn't mean shit, right? It's just sort of the, let's wait until the French come up and break all of this once more and see what kind of condition they're in to go into Russia. The other option, of course, is wait a year, beat up Austria and Prussia a 3rd time, and then go into Russia. I don't know. Well, that was kind of totally random. It's here Monday night. Got this out of nowhere desire for like canned smoked mussels. Or clams, you know, whatever. But mussels probably would be better. I don't get these kind of cravings of things. Like, this is something that I just don't eat, you know. I don't buy, I never have around. But some memory out of way back in my past. They used to be kind of Christmas Eve, New Year's Eve type treats that my mom would have for us. So, like, and it was something I really loved. Obviously, you know, this late at night, there's no way I'm going to get it, and I'm not going to run out, even if it hadn't been this late at night, and go get it, you know? It's 25 minutes each way up and down the hill to the nearest place that would have anything like that. And they wouldn't even be open by the time I got down there. So I had like crackers with gorgonzola and some salami. Probably should have had a touch of oil somewhere. I didn't have any idea how to put that on. And I mean, that worked in its own way. Not something I would eat normally either. Anyway. All right, we're on, I guess the English get to move their boats around or something. Or attrition, that's going to cause some, I don't have to worry about that anymore. It's at minimum from now on, probably. That's going to cause some damage. Looks like something of a lost cause. First of all, with Napoleon heading up Murat's forces here, but even just Marmont can probably take them out. At least to Berlin. Königsberg is a little harder, but of course they could surrender. They could offer a surrender at Berlin. The French don't have to take it. Beyond that, most of the Russians are falling back onto Austria to help defend it, because again, I don't think Prussia is going to hold up. The defense, definitely make an attack here. I don't think we're going to make one down here, but I can double check to make sure. I kind of know what makes people feel like it's kind of World War One-ish. So I had like Kutuzov attack Ney. They each took a loss, and Kutuzov advances. You know, it's the little one-hex advances, but the truth of the matter is there's a lot of room to maneuver around. It's not like you have a solid line, and I don't think such would work very well. You would have to split your forces up so small for that kind of solid line of a wall to defend anywhere that overruns would be trivial. Anyway, not much happened. That pushes us going into February here. We got a couple of Allied leaders coming back. Fuck. Woke up a little too late. It's a little too gray. Next couple of days are raining, but fuck that. I kind of just don't care. And one failure, like, almost invariably means I fail at everything. Like, everything else. We're talking about the fact that I'm not going out shopping today. All the other things kind of get pushed behind it, you know? It's like a stack, and I can't select and try to figure something out. Sometimes I can, but right now, nope. It's just a failure. It's another wasted day. All right, let's check the weather here in February. I feel awfully weak, which is a part of it. I really don't feel like I am even sure I could pull my cart up the hill. And that's going to be a normal winter, cold everywhere. Let's roll the Spanish production. Not that it has much effect on anything, but they get a double. French side of things, they managed to slip one ship out. They got another ship sunk, but they slipped one ship out of Roquefort, did some raiding, got it up to 9%. That puts me to attrition. Probably not too much. That's going to be nothing. A 2 with the French bonus, unless it's in Spain, but there's nothing that big there, is going to be safe on the 6 to 10, which means 11 to 16. I don't have anything that big. Production. Not so hot. Watching a couple of attacks. I've got one up here against Brunswick. That might end up as a siege. I don't know how much Brunswick's got with him, but Prussia's pretty much feels like they're being abandoned, and there's no point. Well, I don't know. Siege isn't particularly good because you don't get the prisoners back as built troops. You get them back as forceful. So that's always one of my thoughts is, but that's from other games, where prisoners are repatriated and become actual troops. Also got an attack here against Kutuzov. The odds are good. The modifiers maybe not so much, but I feel like I can start bringing pressure against them here. Spain beginning to really kind of clear out for whatever it's worth. And we'll see. Sickness has me wanting to cut back on smoking. The last decade or so since I moved up here, maybe longer, with working from home and all that, has really made it so that I smoke almost continuously. Whereas, I can remember times in my life where I would allow myself, say, 3 pipes a day or something. Now it's like 3 pipes an hour. Yeah, they're smaller pipes, but this size, instead of when I do the 3 pipes a day, it used to be, I'll take a really huge pipe and all. Yeah. But that cheating aside and whatnot, it's still a ridiculous difference. I'm just like chain smoking continuously. And this isn't clearing up. And I'm just like, but the problem is it's such a habit that even when I make that decision, it's not like I've got any huge craving or anything, for nicotine particularly. It's, there's, well, maybe because it was after I woke up that I filled this one. But it's just sort of this, I grab a pipe and puff on it empty, and that gives me some of the feeling, and then I'm like, I'm going up, I should fill the pipe up. This is when I most don't need it, when I'm playing the game or when I'm out doing yard work or something like that. It's when I'm sitting in front of the computer, which is unfortunately most of the time. Or lying down, which is a lot of the time recently while I'm sick. Anyway, let's get to battle stuff. This went south down here pretty fast. Nay committed Cav got a 2-to-1 at even, but didn't get great results. Not bad. But now everything has gathered under Kutuzov. Nothing has gained under Nay. Nay is going to be defending at this point, but I think Kutuzov has some significant odds advantages. Lousy set of die rolls for the Russians sets them at a D1. I don't know if this is going to continue. Either side could retreat. The Russians actually have some Austrian Cav, so now they have the Cav advantage if they want to play with that. They were like 1-to-1 at +2, which felt kind of nice, but not with this die roll. So this, the Russians decided to fall back with it and took advantage of splitting their forces for that. Ney actually split his forces as well to push forward. And this is just so that they don't suffer enhanced attrition. It's this really weird, like, you have to balance the two off in your head, whether you want to take, whether you want to have a weaker force or suffer attrition losses. Up here, we undertook the siege. I think that might slow them down more than field battles would. And that's going to put it to the Allied side of things. And I'm going to break. I mean, in the end, it's just, I'm so lazy, I don't want to fucking do anything, is I think what it comes down to. Back up here on, I guess, Tuesday night. Tomorrow's supposed to rain. Next day is supposed to rain, but might dry up towards when I'm awake. Took the English naval move, and we managed to engage the French fleet that was out there with Nelson and beat it up and send it home. What does that put us at? Oh, I forgot to reduce this. They were out there, so they get they did ratings. So they get we only get 3 points back. Yeah, I feel a little more energized and well and everything now that it's night and I can't possibly do anything. I moved some buckets of dirt around at least. Let's roll the attrition check, and that is not going to be pretty. It's like a hopeless position for the Allies right now. I'm just falling back a little bit, hoping to recover my demoralizations. If I wasn't playing with the advanced demoralization, I could pick at weaker French units and hope for the best and stuff like that. The demoralizations are kind of locking my hands, but I'm okay with that. We got a bunch of troops back. Charles is available, and I didn't put him anywhere, which is probably stupid. But I've already rolled the recovery rolls, so I don't want to implicate that. It does bring to heart sort of why I almost always think I quit this game. Is it just hits this sort of dullness where there's not a lot to do, and you're trying to pick off and attrition the enemy or whatever, but you're really not, like, you're not going to win, right? There's nothing dramatic's going to happen. Unlike, and this is where Empires in Arms shines. Empires in Arms is truly built as a multiplayer game, and it can generate really, really ahistorical stuff. This one was never really built as multiplayer. There were times under the original rules where you might want to support the French doing something, but the French victory always required taking everything or holding out to the end and having Paris, which was sort of this weird sort of mixture. But it's like there was very little to spark hopeful wars of the sort that you do see in Empires in Arms. I mean, I've seen France beaten. I was France and was beaten to my knees in a game of Empires in Arms, with Austria becoming the dominant power and changing the whole dynamic of the game in significant ways. There's very little that's going to happen that's particularly exciting in this. And I think the more scripted version takes even what little there was, even though the campaign didn't work in the original. Not sure it works that much better here. It leaves this sort of bland taste in your mouth of the whole situation. And it's like, oh shit, I got through half the game, not even. And do I really want to play another couple months of this? Because it's going to take at least that long. It's hard to motivate myself to come up here and everything. The answer right now is, yeah, I'll keep going, but we're heading into March, which is a particularly ugly month under the new rules. Under the old rules, it was just good weather. Right, so we open up March, worst possible weather, poor weather across the board. See if the Spanish production, crappy. Interesting on the French naval move, they made a couple of attempts to pull out, but that's, if I'm not down to 5% again, I'm automatically going back down there. Might as well mark it now. The attrition roll, this is going to be problematic in this weather. Just a couple of French attacks. First of all, the siege up here, but also we're going to attack, I think that's Kutuzov up there. Kutuzov, stop it. And then Bernadotte is attacking here. Couldn't overrun because they would have fallen into the city. So we're going to have to assault the city, but that's okay. Got to clear that out because we need ports to get our victory conditions. Some of them have to be in Russia. That much I know. not looking at the new map yet for that. All right, tough in another countermix situation. I decided to handle the assault first, and I kill the Russian, great, but I have a 5-point infantry under Bernadotte, and I don't have 5 infantry here. And I don't know if I'm able, like I don't think I have any stacks of 5 infantry anywhere. And I absolutely need to break an infantry out of there to garrison Barcelona. So I don't know what to do. I may pull out of here just because this is a limitation that I think the game just had, which is, and the new one potentially has too, which is I can't garrison, all the locations I want to, especially with the new one's victory conditions, and still operate reasonably. So I don't know, but this is one where I absolutely need the I need to break into other force pool. I think the new one would be more resilient to this because of the 1s and 2s being backsided. I have a lot of places where I don't have 2s because the French are short on those. Modifiers and whatnot were actually against Ney here, but he succeeded in some good die rolls, 11 on both die rolls. Getting another demoralization against Kutuzov, which forces him to pretty much leave because he's demoralized at that point. And what else did we hit? Oh yeah, we took Brunswick, which means I have to look up the Westphalia. I'm going to try to see if I can find something. I'm sure there's a rule there. Last time I looked, I couldn't find it. Westphalia and Grand Duchy of Warsaw, whether or not they're one-time only existences. That's only going to exist in my old rules, although I could look online. Well, downstairs I have a copy of the 6th edition rules. Sure, I can't find it. So, screw it. I'm reestablishing Westphalia here. And we'll do the same with Poland if that has to happen. The only thing I can find that's special is that Italy, Poland, Portugal, and Spain don't lose, their forces don't disappear when they're conquered. And I'm just not willing to. Like, I looked everywhere where I could think of to look, which is what I did before. Anyway, that puts me over to the coalition side, and we continue this tedium. And it really is. Now, I know that Nations in Arms had those kind of rules, and maybe I'm importing them from there, but I actually thought that they applied to this game, but I can't find them. Back up here after a failed attempt to sleep. English navies, there's not a lot I have to do anymore. Everything's good, right? And I am, well, I rolled my attrition. It's not a bad number. Still suspect there'll be some, because we got, the winter effects essentially. If there's a big force, I don't know if there is a big force anywhere. There probably is. Doesn't. Decent production for Russia and Austria. Now, recovery of coalition forces, along with my recovery of my willingness to actually try to conduct battles, has failed largely. And so nothing really happened over there. We did shift forces westward, because that's sort of an automatic process. I can just kind of do that, but I can't convince myself to try to untangle this and figure out, do I have a little tiny edge here somewhere or another? The truth of the matter is, I just don't have the stomach to be playing this. It's too fucking dull. It's not a particularly good month either, as we can see outside. We ended up getting one of the more annoying rolls possible, but one that, fully expresses the weather table. It's wet weather in most of the map, fair in the south, poor in Russia. And we'll just roll Spanish production for whatever it matters, which is crap, of course. This us to the French naval side of things, where the Danes get caught by the Russian fleet and basically both retreat to their respective corners. Russia probably not too excited about rebuilding that. But there's plenty of British ships to cover everything. I guess we'll roll the French attrition. That might cause some damage. Trying to remember what I got. There's nowhere where there's an attrition effect that impacts the French. The only place is out here on the poor map, which means a 4, we could see some losses. Remember, they have the -1, but that goes from a 1 to a 1. Feeling confident enough, they're opening up a couple of battles here on the Austrian front, taking Dresden, Berlin, I think. Berlin and Saxony and Dresden and Saxony fell. That's a couple more points on the diplomatic chart, if there's ever anything that I get to roll for. I get to roll for Spain, Sweden under my rolls, but not yet. And then over here, the French pushed the coalition forces back a hex each. Attritional combat, everybody lost a strength point. The French had an advantage in Cav, so they managed to cause an extra casualty against John, but nothing really significant. These things aren't going to stand and fight, because unless they get a successful reinforcement, they're going to surrender. So they pull back, and of course, if I was playing with the Matrix, it would be worse because the French would be able to continue, like they could guarantee that that's going to be a withdrawal pick. Because if it's not, and there's still a little bit of bluffing room there, etc. You can see French troops moving towards the front, but, not much happens in the game. That is really what the frustrating thing is. You're not going to see major realignments or changes, and you didn't in the original either, because it was kind of understandable that, yeah, we really do have to beat France, or else France just wins the game, right? That was baked into the old rules. These rules give you a little bit more scripting and hold you a little closer to history. You don't see something like Russia trying to pick off a weak Prussia or something. I don't know how I feel about that, right? Like, I admire the fact that this is more historically accurate than, say, the original was, or Empires in Arms is. But it's uninteresting. Compare it to, like, the big World War II games, which are also basically, the alliances are fixed, and there's not a hell of a lot that's going on in them in terms of that. The mechanisms you use to fight are more interesting. The production choices are more interesting. I think the thing that made these kind of games more interesting was kind of like the way Soldier Kings just opens you up to this free diplomacy and whatnot, which feels like too much, which is why Empires in Arms and EU interest me more, because they have some restraints on the full diplomacy. Like, you don't just, conquer an enemy and take them over and stuff like that. But it's really, I think, hard to make a strategic Napoleonic that's both accurate and interesting. And I don't know that anyone's done it. But at least Empires in Arms is fun to play. Let me revise what I just said. I remember Age of Napoleon being a lot of fun and feeling accurate. And honestly, I remember Napoleonic Wars feeling that way until I played against a shark at it. Someone who really knew the game and knew how to manipulate it and misuse the systems. Maybe I certainly want to revisit Age of Napoleon. My view on Napoleonic Wars is like, it was a good game solo. It was not a fun game to play against somebody who really knew the system. Not because, I'm getting my ass kicked, but because I'm getting my ass kicked with really ahistorical movements. All right, not much for the English Navy to do. Attrition roll, that's not great. It's not terrible, but only the Russians have to really worry about it. They're the only ones in a winter, actually a poor situation. All right. And coalition forces, mainly just falling back a little bit, trying to strengthen their defenses. Just make it hard for the French to punch through. They'll do so, but we don't want, a single climactic battle or anything like that particularly. We want to delay as long as we can to play the game out, and maybe not surrender, I don't know. We're waiting for the American war to be over and the English to start being able to transport either goods or troops or money into play, the Spaniards to maybe come back, whatever. So we can play it out as much as we like there, I guess. All right, so it's May, almost assuredly good weather. I rolled it is. It's like a 1 in 6 chance it's wet in the northeast. And then Spanish production, which is normal. Navies get nowhere. Attrition roll looks pretty good. Pushing forward, Ney managed to gather a force together that could move in here and overrun some Russian cav, and now they're going to hit, I guess that's John there. Attempting to defend doesn't really work in this game, which is one of the reasons why I say the World War I model doesn't make sense, even if sometimes it feels like it might be that. If you gather up forces, and the French can do this when their attrition is good, when it's not winter or whatever. If you gather up your forces, you can get some pretty good hits. If we had more movement points, we could have overrun John as well and destroyed him. Instead, we got the automatic D3 on him at no losses and pushed forward. And again, you don't have enough movement points to just wipe out a line, but I don't know. Napoleon coming down this way, rather than, he doesn't really have the forces to handle taking on all of Prussia, the threats of Russia coming up this way. Most of the French forces centered here. But honestly, the French army isn't all that big. It's facing something, even with the Allies and whatnot, that isn't a lot smaller than it at this point. Yeah, I got reserves coming up, but... And that's fine. I mean, it shouldn't be bigger than all of European powers' armies that they're able to muster, although those force pools are a lot more full. So I don't know. Maybe it's just what I've got at the front isn't that big, that I've actually got a fair amount. Because I know I've got stacks of 5 coming up and whatnot. Nothing huge. So on the coalition side, didn't get the U.S. in, or didn't get the U.S. out, or whatever. The navies, I don't see anything to do with them. Attrition die roll of 1. That's going to put it, it would basically, I don't think anybody's out of supply. It would basically have to be the 16 to 20. I know there's nothing in that range. So we will just jump all the way to production. And only the Brits get anything interesting. Basically nothing of interest happens. We're holding this line, knowing it can't hold. And we push into June, which means constant good weather for a while. Here it is, Thursday night. Ugh. And actually a pretty good day for me. I got up early enough, around noon, and took my little cart, went shopping. It rained on the way there a little bit heavily, very, very lightly on the way back. It was a pretty day on the way back, but it was still raining. It was sunny out, but there were clouds and whatever. Doesn't seem to have hurt me too much. In fact, I noted something that's been kind of preying on my mind for a while. You know, I've been getting fatigued. Now, yes, I have been ill. But I get fatigued sometimes walking up my driveway, right? Like I get out of breath or whatever. Again, this may be because I was sick. And I guess I'm still sick, but I'm not 100%, but I feel much, much better. And by the way, whoever suggested Mucinex or whatever, I picked up a box of that along with some more cough syrup. I won't need it for, a year or more, but I can't pick up drugs when I'm sick. I get out of breath, maybe running up and down a couple of flights of stairs, maybe going up my driveway, but not from hauling, probably 150 pounds today of groceries up my hill, which is significantly larger than my driveway, not from going dancing. So some of me says it's mental, Anyway, here we are, June, I think weather's always good. It is. So we will roll. Left my stupid gloves on. And we don't get particularly good Spanish production. So we're unable to get out. And that's a nasty attrition roll. That's going to hurt, even in good weather, across the board. Now, because they're the French, it's not going to hurt as much. Like every other country would be, they lose one off just about any stack. Into a problem that I don't know what to do about. I figured out what to do about it. I just shifted the strength point from the French force pool to the Russian. There was a Russian unit in the French force pool stack. I don't know. Maybe it was a captured unit that somehow drifted up there. I just don't know. But somehow it's made its way into the Russian stack. It could be a Russian unit I put in the wrong pile. It could be, in which case the exact right thing happened. It could be something that I thought was French, but because blue and green, I have some difficulty seeing them apart. They're not hard to tell here, but it was difficult right there under the particular lighting that it was in. And again, it's just the force pools are going to do this to me. They're going to do this to me. And there's no easy way in this game to figure out how many strength points should be anywhere. I'd have to add up everything. That's one thing, again, I've said this before, that I really liked a lot better in Clash of Monarchs, Clash of Sovereigns, although the latter has its definite problems. The force pool side of things, it tells you how many troops are in the whole force pool at any given time. It's easy to determine. You don't have to look up all the setups and everything and try to add everything up. The French have now swung their focus towards the Austrians, with Napoleon gathering a force here at Prague, and Ney overrunning again with an attack on Vienna. I don't want to make other attacks, but I'm behind the river line here, i.e., you know, the Austrians are on the river, therefore they're on the wrong side always. But yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. I mean, all we have to do, if we take these two, is Budapest, which is relatively easy for me to strike down and get, and then Austria surrenders once again. Modern version, or the version 6, whatever, rules. Someone like Austria, they're expected to surrender twice, but not 3 times. Same thing with Prussia. If either of those cases happen, like if they surrender 3 times, they're not able to win their major victory, which is conquering Paris or whatever. It might fall into a count up the number of production cities you have or something like that. I don't really recall. That would be the old rules for victory. Those feel like they're the defaults that you fall back on, but it's hard to parse these rules, and it's certainly impossible for me to hold them all in my head for victory. You don't want to lose 3 times, though. That's for sure. And that seems actually pretty likely. If I recall, you know, the way the old War and Peace worked, Austria and Prussia got knocked out more than twice, usually. Simply because between the time, and this may be the whole, oh, nobody can declare war, you know, like they don't, France, the one way of interpreting the rules is that France can't declare war on Austria or Prussia, and that Austria and Prussia can't declare war and don't declare war, but they automatically do once their force pool is built. None of those feel reasonable to me, but I don't know. Napoleon assaulted Prague. That was an easy win. There were only a couple of strength points there. And Vienna fell to a lucky siege. Fuck. Puts us to the Allied side. Austria could surrender at this point. There's not a lot of reason for them not to be honest. I think they're going to. Like, another round of combat, or like, I don't know, conceivably I could win back Vienna, Russians could hold Budapest, but I don't feel like, as Austria, I particularly want to lose more troops in this. So although Prussia has been kind of, oh, yeah, we're not going to surrender. And now that Berlin's fallen, I don't have another opportunity. I've got to wait until Königsberg falls, but that's okay. Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a good shot that the French will be able to take. It really is Moscow and St. Pete that they have to take. But they don't have to take Kiev. But the thing with Kiev is it's the production city closest to where the French army is going to be. So cutting that off so that I'm not constantly being hit would be of some value. Yeah, I think I'm gonna surrender Austria. The Allies have a nasty, or the coalition has a nasty attrition roll, which is going to do some damage, certainly to the Russians, as they try to pull back and, I don't know, maybe try to defend Königsberg. least there's some forests and shit here. So the Russians start their pullback. One of the problems with this game, because there's no stacking limitations, there's no real terrain that you can defend, right? No matter what you do, I guess in the mountains, especially with an entrenchment or whatever, you're in pretty good shape. But if you have a moderate-sized force, but that can just be sort of bypassed and cut off from supply, and then start starving it out if there are big enough forces around it. Digging it out is tough. And here, we're not quite able to make an all-mountain line. In fact, we're in the river. Chances are we're not going to take too much loss. We're probably going to, get hit and take a strength point each from whatever attacks are made. Maybe more than that. But there's not really like I want to form a defensive line or anything like that. It doesn't feel like, the operational World War II games tend to feel, which is fine. It's not World War II. It is the Napoleonic era. It is right that you shouldn't be able to just sort of cordon everything off and whatever. But the game plays kind of like those operational World War II games in terms of, how you can move and whatnot. It's just without a stacking limitation, without zones of control, without stuff like that, there's a lot less subtlety, cleverness, whatever you want to say. Something that I don't usually really like too much, that whole sort of geometric playing of the board and whatever. But it wouldn't be appropriate in the Napoleonic era. And it's one of the reasons why maybe a hex by hex system doesn't make that much sense. I don't know. I don't mind it that much in... I feel like it plays out pretty well in something like Campaigns of Marlborough. But in the Napoleonic era, it feels like there aren't fortresses everywhere. You're not trying to reduce and break through a line. Again, in some ways, the Campaigns of Marlborough, we're talking about stuff that was actually not that far from a World War I type of feel in a lot of ways, because you had to inch forward and take locations. And that's just not the case in Napoleonic combat, which is why I feel like area maybe represents things just as well. This is fine. It's not all that interesting. It's not in enough detail, like the Zucker games are, to really give you a picture of what the operational side of stuff looks like. There's a little bit more room for play in this. Anyway, we move forward. We'll put some Austrian dice here. We'll put some Spanish dice here. While I'm watching videos, I'm trying to read the rules to something else. I may well take a break from this and play something else for a little while, give myself a break, because there's just something about what this game is trying to do that is kind of uninteresting. And that's kind of the problem I had with Nations in Arms. What it's trying to do is kind of uninteresting in the same way. It just does it in a much worse fashion. This feels comfortable, especially with the newer map in terms of like with the rivers in the right places. But the ease of this littler map, less footprint, is just so much better for me. Another thing, and this has to do with any Napoleonic game. The victory condition of, Napoleon went and captured Moscow, and that was his goal. And he took it. And he expected Russia to surrender, and they didn't. So, to fit the historical model, you can't have Russia fall if Moscow falls. But on the other hand, why would Napoleon just make that plow for Moscow. They try to script it in here, but it feels artificial. And honestly, if I can take Moscow and St. Pete, I get as good a result, to be honest. And that's but it's not what historically was attempted. And it's quite possible that Napoleon could have managed it, because the Russian army really did concentrate around Moscow, try to defend that, try to prevent it from falling, fell back after Borodino, but it wasn't the, oh, look, I win, and, everybody knows that, right, sitting in this game. So Napoleon's not going to go for that maneuver. It kind of came to my mind with the, I really ought to look up the rules for, how France actually wins the game. But there's kind of a, yeah, but doing that actually probably makes it ahistorical, in the sense that Napoleon won't make the kind of mistakes that are like, oh, I thought I was going to win, Again, the scripting tries to make it so that Moscow is something of an objective. If you capture Moscow, that opens you up to I think the win by holding Paris, but win a minor victory. But you split your forces, send some of your forces up this way. You've got almost interior lines compared to the Russian trying to defend. I know it's not, but you've got the capability to shift your forces back and forth. I don't really see that it's a great, that there's a reason that France wouldn't go for both. They've got more, they've got at least as many, or a sufficient number of quality 2 leaders. The real problem is that the Russian army is essentially as good as the French army in this. So you might not be able to do it. And we're gonna see how far France can get. All right, here we are on another turn. By the way, I'm getting those fucking chest pains again. Not sure it's the same, because those lasted several days. But it's, I don't know. I can't go through another cycle where it's like, if it was pleurisy and then go back to pneumonia and whatever. I can't do that again. I mean, I don't know, maybe I don't have a choice. What my hope is that it's from pulling the cart because I'm weak. But it feels too far in. But it's hard to tell. Let me make sure weather's still okay. It is. And so we have production for Austria and for Spain now. Austria can still get production. Unlike Spain, yeah, my capital's taken. I won't get points from that, but I can still get points out of Budapest. And not much. Kind of an interesting change from the old game. In the old game, you got a couple of landwehr each year. In this game, under the version 6 rules, you get them each turn, but only if you're at war with France, which means I'm not creating more landwehr, but I can still produce the ones that I have, which I'm getting one per turn, or I was getting one per turn with Austria. I have quite a few. And Prussia creates tons. It's interesting because it definitely uses up the countermix a little bit more than the original did. French fleet went down. Nelson took out the fleet trying to escape from Bray. It was actually a capture, but I can't capture French ships anymore. I don't have any more countermix left. So there's that. Attrition. Probably safe. I will have to check. That wasn't safe. I lost, I think, about 5 strength points, mainly from miners, just because I like to take the miners. And production is normal. The French on their big march east have collected a bunch of troops to try to attack Kutuzov here with Ney. I don't know how well that's going to go. I'm probably outclassed, although I likely outnumber them. This is a situation where Ney attacked, got kind of inconclusive results, a hit on each. Everything came in. Bagration, Buxhowden was back here, Joseph was over here. They all threw in, and neither side actually wants to attack now. The French don't want to attack at numerical parity because they were dealing already at a -1 at 2-1. And Kutuzov does not want to attack from here because he's in the river. So, unlike in the other game, in the newer version of it, where if you've got the river separating you from the enemy, you're in a position where either side gets the river bonus and it makes sense. Here, Kutuzov is just intrinsically on the wrong side of the river no matter what. You know, even though he fought Ney without Ney getting a penalty for the river, for crossing the river or anything. Now if he wants to fight back, he has withdrawn behind the river, but only if he wants to attack. He is only withdrawn if he wants to attack. Again, these center hex rivers just make sense in almost no games. That is going to then mean that that battle is simply not continued. And we move on. Given that the Russians are just going to be falling back, I'm going to undertake using them. Oh, it doesn't really matter where I put the British fleet. And we have attrition. Ooh, not good. It's very hard to happen in any incarnation of this game. The two-player version, it could happen, but it's not going to happen, I think, in the multiplayer, is the historical loaning of Prussian and Austrian troops. That can only happen if Prussia or Austria is pro-French. If they are, they don't fully engage, but they loan their troops. I much prefer the Empires in Arms solution, which is that is one of the possible peace conditions, is to give loaned corps. It works better. Because honestly, Prussia and Austria were never fully pro-French. They signed on to the continental system, which is handled differently in this. You have to actually occupy stuff. They provided access, which is automatic in this system. And they loaned troops more or less during the period that they were not at war with France, rather than, at a period where they were actually aligned with France. Here's a quick snapshot of the Russian-Prussian forces falling back. We go to another turn. I did check the U.S. war a little late. I did production a little late too. That's okay. Here it is, Saturday, late afternoon. Went out last night, danced. I felt pretty bad on the way there, and I feel pretty okay now, except that every fucking muscle in my body aches. Anyway, I'm not sure weather's good in August automatically. It is, okay. And let's check Spanish production. It has virtually no effect on the game, but you know. Sure, I want to try to slip a ship out anymore. The Brits are handcuffed by the American War. I can take my time with the French, maybe end up rebuilding navies or something. But right now, there's basically nothing to be gained. I'm not going to be able to shift that up high enough. There's enough British fleets, etc. So let's just go to the French attrition. It might hurt. And this weird sort of dance that the game has, because you need leaders to move troops, and troops are constantly showing up, flushing guys back, moving them forward with little forces, etc. We do have one attack. I'm going to try to do a double doinker there on Bagration, which succeeds because I'm using Napoleon. Oh, fuck. Last time I played, I had a bunch of troops. And I think this was Jerome Bonaparte, who I'm going to have to reshift. He was actually within striking distance of Russian stuff. So I'm going to try to figure out where he's going. I think he's back here somewhere. I sent him flying way back because voices. I don't see anybody. I thought he was ferrying troops. It's possible it was Victor, but I don't think so. I think it was Jerome up in the front there. So as I was starting to figure out this battle, I'm like, oh, whoa. And this may be the only time that I've pulled all the troops kind of off the track, and you can see the danger in it. I forget. The fuck? That was weird. The voices were obviously way closer sounding. Yeah, you probably can't hear it, but like, it wasn't something across the street, I didn't think. But I didn't see anything coming up my driveway or anything. Usually it's people cutting through or something like that. But they lasted. And so I actually went downstairs, peeked out my screen door. A couple of teen girls with a phone in hand or something. I don't know. I think they were taking a picture of the house or something. But because I went outside to check to make sure there wasn't like an owl on my roof or something, because that happens. I got no idea, but it scared the shit out of them by showing up at my door, which sent them running. Anyway, let me figure out what this is up to. I had to redo the attrition on that stack as well, because it was a huge stack. I don't think it was supposed to be all together. I don't know what's up. But anyway, it's down to 10 strength points now. And now I go back to where I was, which is trying to figure out how that battle goes. But I think I learned my lesson, not to pull things off the tracks. The combat was kind of inconclusive, and the Russians are kind of like, maybe we can trap Nappy here. Force him into a fight that, isn't for his best. He'll still just pull away. Nothing's that decisive in this game. And the confusion, etc., is enough to have fatigued me a little bit more than I'd like to. I'm not going to go ahead with the Russian turn. I'm not sure if the Russians want to fall back. The battle ended up, I forgot my marker, ended up going against them in the next round. And I think that means they do have to withdraw. But I just don't feel like playing it out right now. By the way, I've got an empty pipe right now. give me something to chew on and play with in my mouth, but without smoking. Trying to cut back a little bit. This sickness really hit hard, and I used to be able to be mellow and able to think and whatnot, and not smoke to the degree that I do now. Somehow things just went ridiculously overboard in the last, really, 15 years or whatever. I've been smoking much harder than I used to. Here it is, Easter Sunday, and I don't know, I had vague thoughts of a longish walk, kind of like my shopping walk, close to that. Just because it's, it was supposed to be a pretty day and everything, but I had trouble staying awake. Like, I woke up at noon, could have gone, had to do some stuff, stupid online games and stuff, and then I did force myself out for a little walk around the block type of thing. A couple blocks, but whatever. And now I'm going to try to finish up this turn where I'm on the Allied side of it. There's not much to do navally. I'm gonna, I think, just kind of ignore that. I don't see anything right off the bat, so we'll jump right to the attrition. If I catch something later, I'll fix it. It might have some harm. I don't know how big those Russian forces are. I don't think anything's really huge, although Bagration did gather up. So he's got probably 10 troops. So he's probably susceptible. And the Russians just falling back. There's not much to do here. Prussia is waiting for Königsberg to fall. Then they lose it, and they're out. But the French forces are mainly positioned against the Russians. And once Prussia falls, I think we cut this video. Probably go to a different game, and then for a while, and then this game takes on the big invasion of Russia thing, which is honestly, I don't see how the Russians can hold out. Like, the reason that they were able to historically was that Napoleon thought taking Moscow would be sufficient. It's not knowing the rules, the victory conditions. It's like, if you have a game that has victory conditions, well, you know what they are, right? It almost feels like there should be a die roll or something. There should be some way of not knowing whether or not you can beat Russia by taking Moscow, right? Where it becomes a viable choice instead of, if you got to take St. Petersburg too, you go after both, Anyway, games like Empires in Arms, with its freer diplomacy, not really freer in a different sort of way, but with its situation where Russia might well give you they might make a limited surrender, which is essentially what Tilsit was, in order to prevent themselves from losing their army and their capability to exert their power. And then they might turn and, attack someone else, Turkey or whatever, in order to regain standing for the losses that they take. This is, I don't know, neither one feels historically believable, but at least the Empires in Arms gives a more enjoyable multiplayer experience, I think. As Easter begins to wane, I did go out for a walk. I don't know if I said it before. Little one. Yeah, I think I did. But I also sat out and had a cigar and some brandy. Anyway, here we are. September, I bet you weather can happen in September. And we got some wet in the in the northeast section, which just means, if I remember, things move a little slower. That's the hard part to remember. The reduction in movement is, it's not in the original. So, and this is, I think, an optional rule. Let's do production for the neutrals. Good across the board. The question was light enough there wasn't any, and I'm hoping. I kind of just don't feel like checking. It was a 2, which, unless I have a 16 to 20, which I'm pretty sure I don't, or an 11 to 16 out of supply, nothing should be out of supply, but things might be. That's the problem. Anyway, Austria's conquered, so their Prague is a supply source for us now, which kind of opens everything up. But we got high production. I haven't taken it yet. I will take cav where I can, because you can only build cav on the high production rolls. For the majors, it's, you can build. I mean, France has 4 production points. They can build a couple of cav if they want to, but I wouldn't want to. Got another battle at Double Doinker with Napoleon trying to get the outflank bonus over on Bagration, which he gets. And I can just teleport him forward. The only problem is these guys could be overrun, but that would require the Russians to put themselves in an offensive and advancing position, which is risky. I don't see it as being worth it, even though a cav is, more expensive. That results in another one of these little victories. So we'll just do the attrition for the allies. We'll just move on with them. Oh, that's not going to be pretty. Let me do an alliance check for the Brits as well. I mean, they get a 1 in 36. The war is going to take years. Once it breaks open, the English can start playing, but they really can't do anything anymore because they have no transports. Again, I think I fall back. It just feels ugly, but it's like I can't really afford to fight. If I bring massive forces together, what do I get out of it? I get, the 2 to 1, maybe at reasonable modifiers, but the most I do is cause a couple of casualties, and then, the opponent falls away. It's kind of the same as like attacking here. You can't really succeed in bringing a massive attack into play. It's not going to do you much in this system. The system kind of rewards... Oh, I forgot to move Joseph. And Nay, for that matter. I just recalled that, hey, these are guys who don't have troops, who need to run back and shuffle stuff forward. It's just kind of the nature of it. A lot of skirmishes might happen as you're trying to advance. You're trying to cause that attritional losses. But the real major battles, they're unlikely. And it kind of fits, if there's no great reason to fight, don't, right? If you have great odds, The other guy doesn't, so he will withdraw essentially and not cause you, not do much. And that's where the combat matrix doesn't really hurt that much, because again, you don't suffer that badly from your withdrawal. A little worse than you would otherwise. I just don't want to play with it because of playing solo. It's, it ends up just being additional die rolls for what people pick, and with limited chance of something really dramatic kind of happening, like somebody who you're expecting to withdraw not doing so. And those can be really horrible, so you kind of don't want to factor them in. It's one of the problems with Empires in Arms is you have to play with the tactical matrix in that game, and it's just a difficult thing to do solo. From something like that 6 can be massive when you have your forces spread out. Matter of fact, did something stupid. I have, so anything that's smaller than a 3 stack isn't affected by attrition, but because the Russians don't get a home country bonus, essentially, wherever their troops are, when they get hit with a 6, every stack is going to lose something. It actually might, I don't know. I was going to say it might be better. No, it's always better to have your forces spread out. But it's like my forces being spread out mean that I am easier to attack. But also, when that nasty roll comes up, I take as heavy a losses as I would if I had consolidated forces, to be honest. I mean, especially like if I've got them spread out in stacks of 3, which is unfortunately a lot of the case here, where I'm taking 1 per stack. Well, I would only take 2 hits with a stack of 10. So, but I'm not really spread out to that extent because I want to be small, so much as I've got troops filtering in slowly in little chumps. Let's do the production. Nope, Britain gets 1 too. Britain doesn't get any production. They're maxed out. They got nothing to build. And this is our final position, falling back. Trying to hold Warsaw a little bit longer, because if the Poles come back, that's more troops. Dropping off point, Königsberg, I don't know. I mean, the Prussians are just in bad shape, to be honest. It's going to push us here. That makes a couple of interesting things. First of all, I get Murat back, which will help me funneling troops. But Spain comes back in to be available to join. The problem, of course, is, and this is the truth in the 2-player games, in the original, in this one, wherever scripting isn't in play, the coalition is hard to reform because the French tend to have more pro-French points. It might be worth trying to beat Napoleon in a battle, but he's tough to beat, to be honest. But you get permanent victory points for beating Napoleon under the new rules, which is pretty big. I don't think that was the case in the original. But yeah. All right, we're going to break for a bit. Right, here in October, weather was wet everywhere except the south, which really is just Spain in this game, because they cut. Italy was more completely covered in the was completely covered in the newer version, and we got improved Spanish production, not Austrian. French attrition, probably not bad, but likely is going to cause a little bit of damage. Actually, I don't think the French lost anything. They're going for another double doinker here. Eugene and Napoleon working together. They got improved production again. We get the double doink, so we get to slip in there. Interesting question. Oh, I forgot to roll for Spain. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. -2. We would not get them. Barclay's got an interesting call here. He could withdraw into the city, causing a siege. Now, the problem with that, of course, is I end up losing Barclay, which I don't think I want to do. So I think that's going to actually, that's going to be the deciding factor, is that I'm going to fight a field battle simply because I don't want to get stuck in a siege. I could always withdraw some of my forces after a round of combat. I have a small enough Russian force that I could have all fit in Warsaw, but yeah. But the reason for a siege being valuable is that I can trade some of my troops, etc., that will eventually be captives of France and never returned, probably, unless I'm conquered, in which case the game's probably over, in exchange for slowing down, bringing Poland back in. That might be a worthwhile thing. But anyway, we're going to conduct the beginning of the fight. So, Napoleon was successful in the fight, got a big D3 off of it on Barclay. But Eugene was wounded. I don't have an additional leader, so I may have to leave some forces behind. I'll have to see about that. And the Russians keep falling back. Their only real hope here is that the attrition, like it did historically, is the devastating factor. But, again, Napoleon's not going to do what Napoleon historically did, which is run to Moscow. There are some additional features here. We have the typhus rule, I think is an optional rule. Lots of stuff. Following a French invasion of Russia, which will happen once the French army moves in, a roll of 12 before regular attrition will trigger typhus, and then that will be ugly. But I think that's ugly for both players, right? Yeah. So, I don't know who that's going to be worse for, to be honest. Definitely, now what they hit, it is going to hit. I have to kind of try to remember where the map board pieces are from the original. I think area 2, I don't know where the division is there. Yeah, that's the problem. Okay, area 2 is let's see, we got Hanover here, but that's not right. Area 2 looks like it cuts through part of Austria, to tell you the truth. So map area 3 would include much of Austria. I might simplify it because, they're just doing things anyway. Just cut it right here. And say these two areas will be in really bad shape for the typhus. This area has a penalty as well. and everything else, basically France is pretty safe. That's where those lines seem to align with. Anyway, that puts us into November. Will Prussia ever fall? I mean, yeah, they're going to, but it's taking forever for me to get there, and that's going to be my my delimiter on this video. It's kind of an ugly situation. Coming up on winter. I mean, this would be a winter turn. We can roll and see. It probably is, but we haven't entered Russia yet. Let's see what we got here. 4. It's going to be cold across the board, which is bad attrition. But the problem with it is you kind of don't want to invade Russia in wintertime. But the other side of it is, hey, look, next year when the weather turns good, Austria is going to be available again. The interesting question is there any scripting in play to turn things around? Because if there isn't, I can rely on the alliance bonuses to make sure that Austria and Prussia aren't going to re-enter the war against me. England's really not able to turn things around on their own. So that becomes kind of an interesting factor. In the original game, this would be a golden situation. I could just say, screw it, I'm not going to invade Russia. I don't think I'm not going to invade in winter, okay? But Austria, after being conquered the second time, upon reconstruction of force pool, will be eligible for normal alliance phase rules, exception see Russia below. I don't know what that is. Beginning the... okay, this is normal alliance. Remember, players are playing Austria and Prussia, though. If this was the two-player game, I could completely ignore the problem. It's not. Okay. Not sure what there is under Russia that affects this particularly. I don't see anything here. So this is Austria, Prussia, and Russia, which allows me to take move any one leader with any combination. Yeah, we get a yeah, the only special rule is in the two-player game, England would be able to utilize some of those forces, but the important thing is keeping them out of the war. Now, I can't really stop in the 5-player game or whatever. I can't stop Austria from coming in against me. I don't know. Anyway, let's do the production for the neutrals. It's not great. It's kind of clear that the two-player game is just as broken as the original was, at least under these circumstances, because they would be dependent upon the alliance display, the modifiers there, which are going to be pro-French for the rest of the game, unless a lot of countries come in or Russia defeats France completely. Now, historically, Russia and the weather did defeat France, essentially, and sent them reeling back. And that is good enough. But that's a lot harder. I just don't think that's going to happen. But anyway, in the 5-player game that I'm playing, I'm in a position where Austria and Prussia are going to be able to go anti-French. So there's nothing really safe, but I feel like I'm better off leaving a force to to keep Austria kind of pacified, rather than invade Russia in the winter. I should have Eugene back up here. I didn't really need him yet. Launching one more attack, Napoleon going against Barclay again. Just trying to weaken the Russian position, as much as possible. So far, though, he's still not getting the troops together for Königsberg. It could have been an overrun if I had enough movement. I don't think I did. I moved up 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Could have stayed here. 3, 4 with a forced march. I could have overrun it, but instead I got the D3. But that's just as good because I didn't take any casualties. That puts me over, I guess, to the Allied side of things. Nothing too exciting there. Let's see if... No. Attrition. Nasty. That's going to hurt. Let's pull back a little bit more. We may make next turn the last turn on this vid. Just because we're not going to see the invasion of Russia and happen because it's winter. And whether or not Prussia falls becomes kind of irrelevant. It's going to fall, although probably going to launch the attack this next turn anyway. And the Prussians may actually want to fall early by just withdrawing and letting me take Königsberg in order to get more time rebuilding, as it were, and come in earlier in comparison to the Austrians. Now, obviously, the French could just refuse to take it. I don't know how they feel about that. It's kind of a weird situation. It's like both sides may not want, both sides may want, the wrong side may want the war to end early, which is the Prussians. They're not allowed to surrender because they can only do it when Berlin falls at first. They'd be allowed to. And the French can just withhold attacking Königsberg and just leave Prussia in the war, taking attrition and whatnot, building up more and more landwehr. But it's not like they're really capable of building a lot of landwehr. They only have Königsberg for that. Here on the December turn, both Spain and Austria got enhanced production. The French got a pretty good attrition roll. It is normal winter, cold everywhere. It's almost assuredly that. I think there's a 1 in 6 chance that it could be poor in Russia. And now I'm going to roll their production roll. They took no losses from their attrition, and they get good production as well. The issue is the French are almost completely out of their force pool. They have 1 infantry left. That's it. So this is the Grand Army. Now, obviously, I may have made force pool fuck-ups, but, it's probably pretty close. We haven't been getting a shit ton of troops. We start with that big force, but yeah, this is pretty much what we got. Now, of course, we're at the end of the year, so we'll be getting another 3 infantry, but it's not going to make that big a difference. I decided to take Königsberg because what I don't want to have happen is a long siege that puts me, past the spring or whatever. I want to be prepared when good weather hits to go into Russia. And you know what? There's a big difference between these two. So I got a full year or a full good season of campaigning to get my way into Russia and defeat it. If Russia can be defeated, it kind of has to be able to be defeated during the good weather period. The additional weather charts in this game make it a little harder, but in the modern version. In the old version, I think it would have been easier, but and I gotta remember I got a backup leader. I'm gonna use it to funnel more troops, but I'm a little more iffy about this. If Barclay goes into Grodno, I don't remember what the invasion rules are. These are of some importance. I know there's like a dual track, and I don't know if I'm safe trying to take that, because prior to January 1810, if I take a major city, so I've got to wait another turn to prevent the invasion rules and the potential typhus and all that from happening to me. So I probably don't actually want to launch this attack there. Prussians did just fall back from Königsberg. I don't have to advance. I don't think I want to. We had a battle. I forgot to check leader loss. Close. All right, so that'll bring us over to the Allies. Oh, let's see what our attrition check is. Well, first, I know I shouldn't do this first, but yeah, it might hurt. Probably is going to. No exciting production. I decided to leave things like that. I don't know. Why don't I just suck that back in? The reason I want to do that is I'm causing some attrition on the French power. Each time they attack. Might as well. Might as well. That's going to put me to 1810. Brings Bernadotte in. But also a lot more troop placement. And then I guess we're just going to be sending it up. Some more issues with countermix not meeting the needs here. I don't remember where somebody didn't have something they needed. Poland has enough, except for the Cav. But Switzerland. I think we ran into this before. The Swiss countermix is small. The Saxon one is huge. They both start with an S, but the Swiss have an SZ. It's as if, I mean, there's no way, because there's a Saxon Cav, but there's like tons of Saxons, and there's no more Saxon reinforcements. Same thing's true with some of these other countries, and it's just like, it's as if the countermix was not like properly balanced at all. Now, in the later, in the newer version of the game, you might be able to get away with it, you might not. You get this weird situation because 1s and 2s are backprinted, which, you know, conceivably, these single-sided should have been fine. I don't think they are. And I don't think I'm missing as many pieces as, you know, given that I'm not missing any leaders or anything, right? That it feels like I've kept most of my stuff, right? And I remember running into this consistently, but I don't remember if it happened very early when I first was playing the game, or if it started happening later on, you know. So it's possible that I might be missing a couple of pieces, but like the Swiss seems really unlikely that I'd be missing that many. And it also seems ridiculous that there are too many counters for countries that just never produce them. It just seems like something was fucked up. And that fucked upness did continue into the new version, where it feels like they tried to maintain the proportions or whatever. So I think the Saxons had the same kind of problem in the new version as well. And maybe the Swiss don't have enough pieces, you know, I don't know. Some of them, it's tough, like Holland. I had to make change to get all their pieces on the board. It's quite possible all the Dutch troops would be one-pointers. Anyway, that's the end of what we've got. I'm not able to get to the conclusion on Prussia, mainly because the French didn't want it. The Prussians did, but hey. And I'm not ready to invade Russia quite yet. I'm going to wait until the weather gets better. But I really do want to break and play something else for a bit. So let's send this up. I think this is going to be a French victory, but I do not feel like I really want to do this other thing, essentially, because it's kind of it's kind of topical to current events is the reason. Although I don't know how good a choice it is. It is not Golf Strike. It's a decision games game. A relatively recent one on Iran, but like I don't have a lot of trust in the design. Anyway, we'll get to it very shortly, I hope.